Well, John, I'll come to you first. Where do we start from that 2 goals and cruising in a game against Doncaster and end up losing it 3-2?
John's on mute.
Don't know why he's on mute. There we are.
As I was saying, gents, we lost that game on 2 fronts for me. The first one was picking Ekpiteta ahead of Ballard. Ekpiteta at fault for both goals. Didn't meet got beat to the first man and the build-ups there first. And second, ball watching, just left his man. Ball's gone over the top of him. And it's a decent finish, but shouldn't have had the chance in the first place. And secondly, I'm pointing the blame at Coach Calderwood for not keeping it tight, not shutting up shop, and the midfield was overrun, and you did not react to it in the second half, and the substitutions came far too late for me. Yeah. Naivety.
Yeah, very frustrating. I think I was saying to my dad about 65 minutes in, we need to make a change here, because it was just one of those games. I thought we were getting passed by midfield and they were getting on top. And again, as a coach and Calderwood, who's experienced, Tim, someone he should know when to change or when to make subs, or at least give Critchley a pat on the shoulder and say, look, it's not working out, but left it too late and going back with no points.
Yeah, I think most people watching that game would have been thinking about a substitute well in advance of the third goal, wouldn't they? Because it needed shaking up. We looked a bit lethargic. We looked a few players looked tired, I thought. Medine seemed to go down like a sack of spuds at every single challenge he faced. To be honest, I have a feeling that he probably had a bad back or something. Whether he's got it in game or whether he had it before, I don't know. But the Donny commentators were basically taking the rip out of him for how soft he was going down. But I think there's something more to it than that. He seemed to really struggle to get back up. But we should have made. John said we should have made the substitution, if not 2 substitutions, in around the 60-65 minute mark, and instead we have this sort of rather bizarre throw everybody on at the last minute, and it was too little, too late. I think I've never. Well, obviously we won't ever have seen 4 subs made at the same time. Quite remarkable. But yeah, Ballard for me should have started tonight. I think there is a rotation to him be involved anyway, but he's also our best centre half, and he's he's missed 3 games and because of sending offs, and he's also missed a game because of international duty. But we shouldn't be keeping him on the bench forever and the day. He's for me, he's our best centre back.
Why is Ekpiteta a nailed on starter in this team? I don't get it.
I think to be fair to them, they haven't done much wrong in the last 3 games, though, have they? Or 4 games. So you can't really just change it just because he's back from international duty. And I think most people would probably think,
I would.
Well, that's why you sat where you are.
He's just a better player.
Well, he is a better player.
That's why he's a new football as well, isn't it? That's his level, learning his trade.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, the thing is it's all hindsight, isn't it? I think before the game, we looked at that lineup, and I thought the only change was probably Robson coming in for Ward. And to be fair, I thought Robson had a piss poor game tonight, if I'm honest. He was lost in the middle of the pitch. Dougal looked knackered. The 2 of them were getting, before it was half time, I thought they were getting passed around a bit and passed through us quite easily. In the first 15 or 20 minutes, they were like us in the first 5 games of the season. They just went from goalkeeper to centre half to full back to goalkeeper. They didn't go anywhere with it, is what I'm trying to say. And then you could just see them coming into it as the game progressed, even though we were 2-0 up. And then the first 10 or 15 minutes of the second half, for me, was just a carry on of the last 10 minutes of the first half. And we were just, before we knew it, we were, we almost looked like we were going to lose the game at 2-1 ahead. So it was very disappointing. But I don't think it's right necessarily to single out 1 or 2 players. I think overall there seemed to be a little bit of, there was something missing tonight, whether it was a bit of overconfidence because they were 2-0 up and they won the first 4 games and sat on the laurels and, it's time to get the fat cigar out and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure, but they'll be thinking about it hard tonight, hopefully.
Nick, what are your thoughts? We've not spoken to you yet, but I'm guessing just frustration, really.
Yeah, There was a bit of swearing going on in the second. Problem for me was it kept buffering every 30 seconds, and it'd buffer, and they'd have scored, and then they'd buffer, and they'd score again. It was like, Jesus. I'd echo what Matt says. I think, hindsight's a wonderful thing to say. We can single out Marv, but and I've been one who said Ballard should be the first name on the team sheet for me, but him and Gretson had looked pretty good the last few games, and we were on a winning run, weren't we? And you look at it at half time, that's probably as good as 45 minutes as we played. We probably should have been 3-0 up rather than 2. It's what happened in the second half that went wrong. And, I said just before we came on air, they would have been getting an absolute rocket at half time off Darren Moore. And our team talk should have just been, look, first 10 or 15 minutes, don't be worrying about, trying to go and get the third. That can happen on the counter attack. Let's just
keep it tight for the first 10 minutes.
Keep it tight, shore up a bit. They're going to get a bit tired, and maybe then you can make a sub on 60 minutes or whatever. But we just sat back and let it happen. Like Matt said, there was a few where it wasn't quite happening for tonight. It's maybe a game too far for Kenny D. Looked a little bit tired, but he'd been brilliant, hadn't he, up to now? So he was always going to start. Robson, it just wasn't happening for either. But yeah, for me, it was just that second half. It's that, we've talked about game management and somebody taking a bit of, ownership of it. We just looked like it. It was a bit like watching us against Ipswich again and Gillingham and those games where we just looked a bit like strangers for that second half. And it wasn't particularly that Doncaster were brilliant. We just seemed to let it happen. It's probably a bit of a reality check, a bit of a grounding, and let's not get too carried away with what's gone before. But like I think it was Matt said, they need to be learning from that as players and as management, a management team as well. They've got to take responsibility for letting us get into that situation. It was like Matt said, it was clear after a couple of minutes of the second half. Oh, you know what's coming here. You could just see it.
You could sense it, couldn't you?
They made a change, didn't they? They made a sub at half time, and it just straight away almost from kickoff. It was, you could see them just getting back into it. Maybe not to score 3, but you could see they were up for it. We just seemed to let it happen.
I think an annoying thing for me was the fact that on 60 minutes the game can go either way, and Critchley must be able to see this. Yeah, he's just stuck with the team and not made changes, not made a formation change, and not made a personnel change. And for me, I don't know.
But would we be saying that at half time, though? We're 2-0 up against, for me, not a great side. I think we're cruising. Second half, it's, as people said, a game of 2 halves.
Just compare it. I mean, we compare it with Saturday. Saturday, we are winning away from home at the top of the league. And we're playing well, and we throw 3 subs on, which to me looked rash then. And then today, when we're chasing the game, we've clearly got players out there who look tired. We don't bring any subs on. It just doesn't. It seems you could sort of understood what he did against Peterborough happening tonight, if that makes sense, around the same time, but it didn't, and it just didn't seem. There's so many players who look leaden-footed out there in that second half. And, we seem to be getting overrun centre midfield, as has been mentioned already. They seem to have 3 lads in there against R2, and it was causing us problems. And, again, that should have been reasonably obvious. And you'd have thought that, listen, I wasn't keen on Ward starting on Saturday, but probably bringing him on as part of a midfield 3 would have probably made some sense around that 60-minute mark, and I think would have probably benefited from that.
Do you know that word that we've used to describe Critchley in the past? It was stubborn. Does anyone think that's reared its head again here?
I don't know if it's stubborn or if it's just comes down to his lack of experience as well. Because, he's got Calderwood next to him now. Oh, there you go. Someone's just put lack of experience. He's got Calderwood next to him to hopefully guide him through that sort of stuff. But it is hindsight again, but you do wonder whether it was sort of a game too far for one or two, because we are playing a lot of football, aren't we? Everybody is obviously in the catch-up sort of situation that everybody's in, and yeah, we did look leaden-footed and tired in the mind as well as on the feet, So there was a lot of players making poor decisions tonight. We went back to sort of tippy-tacker rubbish, and never have any sort of decisiveness about our sort of forward-thinking play, really. So yeah, just overall, very, very, very disappointing, really.
We'll look back at the game, and obviously we've touched on the starting 11 and only one change made. John, before we move on to the kind of main match highlights, for you, was just the one change enough, or obviously looking back second half, probably not, but first half, you say it's probably the right decision to make, maybe only making the one change?
In the starting lineup we're talking about here, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I made my views quite clear at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
I think on our WhatsApp group. I didn't think Ballard should have been dropped. So I'll guarantee you, if Ballard would have been that starting 11, I think we'd have won that game, or would have at least got a point.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my main beef. The rest of the starting lineup looked okay. I wasn't unhappy with that, but yeah, it bemuses me. You've got a player of Ballard's quality sat on the bench, not doing anything. I just don't get it.
He's missed about 8 games now. I mean, obviously some of them enforced.
It's just sorry, Tim. Just what Nick said on the chat group. I think it was you, Nick, when you said Arsenal will call him back if he's not playing, or someone I think said that. If he's not playing it, Arsenal will pull him back and we'll play him at a club that will play him, surely. I know I would if I was in charge of his development.
Yeah, it wasn't me, but yeah, you for a player of his quality, you want him to be playing. Like I said before, though, we were going into it on a winning run, but I think out of those 3 centre halves, Ballard is the best of those 3. It's really, for me, it's a question of it's Ballard and another. It's for Ekpiteta and Gretterson to probably fight out for that other place. And in terms of the lineup, other than that, yeah, no massive surprises. He prefers Turton, I think, away from home, and again, you can see why. And Ward being dropped wasn't a massive surprise, although he hadn't really done too much wrong. But I think it's just a case of, like we talk about every show, there's, it's Saturday, Tuesday, so he is going to mix it up slightly. And it was always going to be the same, top 2 up front, because there isn't really a lot of other option there, and Kai wide on one side and Hamilton on the other. And I thought Kai did some good stuff, particularly first half. He looked dangerous. But then as the game wore on, I think something that disappointed me today was set pieces. They seem to have improved the last few games, and there was a couple of free kicks from Kai.
Floated, yeah.
It was like me taking it with my right foot.
I think I made the point during the game. What I cannot stand is when you've got a free kick on the left-hand side and you're floating it in, somebody doing it with the right foot. Has anybody ever seen one of those work? Never. You've got to be having a 15-yard run on the ball. You've got to meet it perfectly. You've got to be unchallenged, and that never happens.
I think there's. I think if I remember rightly, did one of the poor free kicks lead to their? I don't know if it was their goal or the penalty that I can't remember now, but I'm sure it was a similar sort of thing. It wasn't a floaty free kick. It was one that just hit somebody's midriff on the edge of the area, and I'm sure they sort of broke away and it led to the goal. But it was just like we were going back to September, wasn't it, with the lack of quality on the dead ball again. How do they just sort of turn it off and turn it on? I don't know. They should be doing these 100 million times in the week during training, surely. Very strange.
Very strange. We'll 15 minutes on all the pre-match stuff, but a good start. 9 minutes into the game, the referee blows for a penalty. Tim, quite a clear penalty. If you look back, arms around him, I'm surprised he didn't get booked for that. And obviously, second yellow card in the second half would have meant he was off. But your thoughts on the penalty incident?
Well, just first of all, in the build-up, great play, I thought, by Yates. He nicked the ball off one of the Donny players, didn't he? And played a 1-2 with Kai, put him through on goal.
Oh, that's the second
clear
goal,
on
not the first
goal.
one.
Sorry? Oh,
not
yes,
the
I'm
first
mixing the
goal,
goal.
apparently.
Apologies. Yeah.
On the wine, have you? You've
apologies.
been on the Ultim's ruin, have you? Take it off him, Sam. Take it off him.
I've mixed the two up. I'm still traumatized from that second half. I think that's what it is. Yeah, I was apologies, Sam. Obviously, ball's come. Ball's. I know. Ball's gone out to CJ, hasn't it? Who's put a cross in, and the guy's arms are just all over Medine, aren't they? And I don't think he even had any complaints really. So a Stonewall penalty for me, and well finished by Yates.
Yeah, again, quite confident when Yates is stepping up to the plate there. I've got a few goals already to back him in the last few games, but for me, it was always going to go find the back of the net.
Yeah, I think he scored a couple pre-season, didn't he, as well? So he seems to be pretty good from 12 yards out. So never had much doubt that he was going to score, thankfully. But it's interesting, isn't it, with this I follow stuff, because you can obviously listen to the home commentary. And I don't think either of them were particularly impressed with Medine at the penalty. There was a bit of, he went down too easy sort of thing. And I think he did, but at the end of the day, you get touched in the area, you go down, don't you? That's the way it is these days. So it was a great start, and we actually deserved it again, like we did on Saturday against Peterborough.
Nick, we probably could have been 2 goals for the good only 2 minutes later. I think the free kick came in and goalkeeper dropped it. Yates again kind of maybe stuck a foot out to get a deflection, but the game really could have been dead and done, or should have been dead and done in the first half.
Yeah, it's ex-Blackpool, isn't it, Joe Lumley? I think he played a few games for us a few years ago. And yeah, flapped at the cross, it's dropped down, and I think somebody hit it and it ricocheted off Jerry Yates and just, went the wrong side of the post, unfortunately. And you couldn't have, they couldn't have complained if it had gone 2-0, because again, similar to Saturday against Peterborough, a flying start. We certainly deserved to be 1-0 up. And, like I say, they couldn't complain if we'd have made it 2. But it's that thing again, isn't it, where we create chances and maybe don't just kill teams off enough with what we create. I mean, for the goal, CJ, it can be a frustration with him where he gets into these brilliant positions and sometimes doesn't give that final ball, but whip the cross in. And for me, Medine will probably, go down when there's contact. But he had both arms on him, and if that went to VAR, it's a penalty all day long. So they can't really have any complaints on that. And Jerry Yates does what he does from the penalty spot. So it was a well-deserved start.
Tim, I know you got a bit excited before. The second goal, if you want to use your analysis from before, because I thought it was perfect.
Yeah. We couldn't.
There you go, Tim. Right, look at the screen now. Goal 38 minutes. Hamilton.
It's like I follow. He's on loop.
Hang on a minute. Where's the spinner?
I saw one
Has the
foul about
stream
6
just paused.
Bit of deja vu here, but obviously, as I said before, I thought Yates did really, really well. Dispossessed one of the Donny forward midfield players. Played a good 1-2 with Kai that saw him put clean through. I thought their defender adopted a very strange position in that he just seemed to stand off and let Kai go past him. And obviously, as Kai advances, I think he had quite a heavy touch. And I thought it was going away from him. He then gets clattered, and it drops for Hamilton, who finished, I thought, quite well. From that shot was probably slightly more difficult than it looked because of the way his body was positioned. And but he found the target. Looked very pleased with himself as well.
Yeah, Matt, you shake your nodding your head there. Should I say it was I think if it doesn't go in, the referee blows for a penalty because he seemed to signal advantage, which might mean the goalkeeper was sent off. I'm obviously double jeopardy, not too sure these days, but I just thought the whole move and the counter-attack football was a joy to watch in that moment.
Yeah, it was. It was a nice slick break, and it's funny because I shouted penalty and then I shouted goal. Obviously, I'll have the goal then. Thanks very much. Not fussed. But yeah, so I'm glad that some referees would have blown the whistle straight away. But what obviously with the one camera angle that you get on iFollow, I didn't even see Hamilton until he put it in the back of the net. So it was a good breakaway goal, and you know, if you're going to have two players involved in a quick breakaway, it's going to be Kai and Hamilton. So and at that point, you know, 38 minutes, you know, again we were comfortable. We weren't, you know, necessarily bossing, you know, the middle part of the game perhaps, but we never really, I don't think Maxwell had a save in the first half, if that I can recall. Bit of a flap towards the end, I think, but that was it. And 2-0 was at that point richly deserved, but then it sort of went a little bit like the old football song you hear sometimes, doesn't it? 2-0 and you're up to, anyway.
A game of two halves, the cliche that will be used this evening. And John, I'll come to you on the first one. Ben's got a comment in here. Would the panel prefer the goal or the goalkeeper to be sent off?
I was just thinking that. I don't think it was a sending off offence, to be honest, because he was going away from goal, and it wasn't I think there would have been a defender on the back line to get it, to stop it from going in. So I don't think it would have been a sending off. So it's an irrelevant question, really. But if I am to answer it, I'd rather have him sent off in the pen, I think. Because Yates is pretty handy from the penalty spot, isn't he? He looks pretty deadly.
Nick, obviously 2 goals up, 5 minutes or just over 5 minutes to go until half time. Well, when you're Critchley and Calderwood in the dressing room, when you know your 2 goals, you outplayed Doncaster, in my opinion, for 45 minutes. What do you think's been said in the dressing room? Because what's been said clearly hasn't worked. It's had the opposite effect.
Well, I would hope they didn't say just sit back and let them come at you, because that's what happened. I would like to think it would have just been, like I say, start the second half. They're going to be getting a rollicking next door. Let's just take the sting out of it for the first 15 minutes. We don't necessarily need to go and get a third. We just need to not concede. Whatever was said, if that's what was said, they didn't listen to it. They've made a tweak at half time, and like I said before, it was obvious pretty much from kickoff that they were at it, and it was, you know, they'd made that tweak of the formation. We're getting overrunning midfield, and we just didn't react to it until it was, you know, too late. And you know, Critchley is still learning at this level. But then he has got someone experienced alongside him, which for me is where you'd be having that conversation to go, you know, certainly when it went to 2-1, look, we need to do something here. It doesn't need to be 4 subs, just maybe a tweak in the formation, or, you know, 1 off and 1 on, and just try and just have that 15-minute spell where, you know, nothing can happen. You know, it doesn't have to be about us attacking, but at least they're not. And we just didn't do it, you know, so it's when you 2-0 up like that and cruising, it's really, really frustrating to have a second 45 like that.
Do we all think that the lack of I know Tim mentioned that Dougal is captain material, but I still don't think we've got a captain figure on that outfield pitch. And do you think that was a contributing factor, that we're kind of a bit lost at sea almost?
It did feel like rudderless. Yeah, it did feel like there wasn't anybody taking any responsibility, was there, after 2-1 and 2-2? And there was only one team going to go on and get the next goal, unfortunately. It wasn't good. It didn't look like it was going to be us. Yeah, perhaps it is maybe just a bit of it. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? It's a bit raw, isn't it, when you come straight on here after a game, and particularly like that. And, you know, I'm not saying I'll feel any different in the morning, but it's certainly one that they'll need to get around a table and have a chat about, and what went wrong, and, you know, what you might want to do differently next time. Because, like you say, there just wasn't anybody just going, right, come on, we just need 5 minutes of calm without anything happening. That's the thing for me. It was attack after attack after attack, and we didn't react to it.
No, I said it earlier on. I just thought maybe too many of them had already got the got the sort of celebratory cigars and champagne out, and thinking we're 2-0 up away from home, we've won the last 4, and it's happy days this, and we'll just switch off for 10 minutes, and that's what they did. You know, before you knew it, you were behind the 8 ball. So, you know, it's easy at this level to gain and lose momentum, unfortunately. And like I said earlier, I mean, it'll give them all a kick up the arse, that one, tonight, definitely.
Tim, you've got to give, before we go on to this next point, you've got to give credit to Doncaster, because whatever was said by Darren Moore obviously had an effect and blew Blackpool or caught them by surprise, should we say, starting the second half.
Yeah, certainly. It's clearly the team of the two team talks, the most effective has been in the home dressing room, hasn't it? Because they came out with a mission. I think they came out with a mission to get that goal. And as annoying as he was, the co-commentator on Donny's commentary was making that point, wasn't he? If he was saying we get one and then it changes the game, and it did. And it also almost reminded me a little bit of Gillingham, the way that, you know, if you're a professional team, you come out the second half, and you start well, do the basics right and build from there. And we seemed to come out almost thinking, as we've said just before, that we'd won the game already, and the result was a foregone conclusion, and we got a rude awakening.
John, you've put their first goal on the screen there. Cameron John scoring not a bad effort, to be fair, for a crowd of bodies. But overall, poor defending from Blackpool, isn't it? It's just not clearing the lines or not getting tight to the attackers inside the penalty area.
It's just a comedy of errors, really. Just I put that banner up there, Sam, because it's got my name on it. So I thought I'd leave that up there for a while. So it's me talking about.
You would have hit Rose Head, I think, if that was you in the box.
I was going to say.
No, I'd have just
That's the only
and got injured.
He tweaked his hammy again.
Yeah. Hey, we're back soon, aren't we, Tim? Grassroots is back.
Hopefully. 2 weeks, a week on Monday, I reckon.
Yeah, get in. But yeah, just coming back to this goal. The main thing I remember is, as I said on the intro, Ekpiteta getting beaten to the first ball. I just thought it was very poor defending. We've stood off him, and the ball's dropped to John, and he's just slotted it home. And it was kind of coming, even though it was only 3 minutes into the first half. I was kind of expecting them to score. It was weird.
Yeah, Steve says the first goal was crucial after half time. It's fine margins, different game. If that hadn't gone in so early, I thought we should have brought an additional midfielder on in the second half as well, which we've alluded to before. But again, you can't disagree with what Steve's said there, Nick, because again, if you concede so early, that the mindset and how you go about the game and the game plan just goes out the window.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like I said before, it was just almost straight from the kickoff. You could see it coming. You know, and again, it's a bit like early in the season where we've literally just gifted a goal. It was entirely avoidable. And, you know, another one followed not too soon after. And again, you could just see it coming. Comment come on from there, coming there from Ben. He said Maxwell was poor for their first goal. Still not convinced he's the answer. Yeah, I mean, he's done well, but there are times as well. I think the thing is, there's probably not anybody pushing him, really, is there? No. Sims is still a young lad, and is it Foychek, the other guy? Obviously, not getting anywhere near. Sims will probably be on the bench because you've got to have your homegrown player. So maybe I don't know. It's a bit of comfort because there's not anybody pushing him for that place, but. To me, it was more the defending that caused that rather than Maxwell. He wasn't brilliant, but it was entirely avoidable before the shots come in for me.
Tim, just coming to you, there was Blackpool were looked like they were raging a little bit after the goal went in. I don't know if they were claiming for offside or, again, someone's left a comment I've not put up that's saying that the commentators thought there was offside. But to me, I didn't see anything. I thought it was... maybe it's someone in the line of Maxwell.
I thought I thought the player comes in on the blind side of Ekpiteta, and I thought his movement was great, and I thought Marv's was very predictable and quite poor, really, in that he let him go and he let him get into a position where he just couldn't even hope to get a challenge in on him. So it was disappointing, but to be fair, I just saw it as great movement by Donny and a great finish. That never even crossed my mind it was offside, to be honest. No,
I mean, it's fair, but just a few comments that have come in that are suggesting that It was. Obviously, you have to look back at the highlights there. But
Yeah.
moving on a little bit into the... Oh, go on, sorry.
Sorry, Sam. I think there was a player that was slightly in the vision of Maxwell, from what I recall, which was a very, desperate attempt to claim an offside, really, because he wasn't anywhere near his vision. But I'm sure that's what it was.
I don't think the keeper's at fault for this, to be honest.
No.
Defence hasn't cleared the lines. No. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm. I just want to talk about a defender. Their right back, Brad Halliday, I think it was. The amount of fouls that he gave away this evening and didn't pick up a yellow card, and Gretterson gets a yellow card for his first challenge, for me was ridiculous. But him and Medine seemed to have a right battle, John, didn't they? Always in his back, knees in there, hence why he's probably holding it. But I'm surprised he only got a yellow about 4 or 5 tackles after his first one was made, and he's the one who gave the penalty away, which for me is a yellow card as it is.
Just going back to that Gretterson challenge where he's booked, I thought he actually won the ball as well. Yeah. I was like, a good solid tackle. It made that connection with the ball noise when he got the ball, so it was just bizarre. But yeah, the penalty. What were you saying? The penalty incident.
Just going well, Brad Halliday. I thought their right back committed so many fouls throughout the game, and to only get a yellow card, I think in the 70th minute, after being the one who gave away the penalty in the first half.
I think a lot of his fouls were
surprising.
Bitty fouls. They weren't at a Peterborough standard against CJ Hamilton at the weekend. So it was just a culminate. I think the ref was all right. I think he just had a bit of a card spell, didn't he? I think he's thinking, I've got to book a few players now. I'm letting a few too many of these little niggly fouls go.
Robson pulled a foul about 3 minutes after. After that one, it was far worse. And I think there was 2 or 3 Blackpool fouls that were let go that I thought were a little bit cynical, and far worse than Gretterson. So I thought he was the second half. The ref lost a bit with some of those yellow cards, and I agree with Sam that Halliday was clattering people left, right, and centre. And I think maybe Medine went down a little bit too easily on a couple of them, and I think the ref might have thought there was a bit of gamesmanship, but he gave the fouls each time. And if nothing else, for repeat minor infringements, there should be a yellow card if you're on the number that he was on. But I think it was. I think the thing is, we're picking out things that we don't like because at the end of the day, the second half we weren't at the races, and
exactly, it's irrelevant, Tim. You're right.
I'm saying I understand it's irrelevant, but the amount of times he gave a free kick away, and just inconsistency for me throughout the game from the referee. But I'll move on. We're not here to talk about the referees. My fault. Second goal for them to equalise in the 52nd minute of the game, and Matt, you have to give credit to Doncaster, a quality ball by Taylor Richards. To me, I'm not going to blame Ekpiteta for it. I just think the quality of the ball and the weight of the pass over his head was good, and a nice little finish over Maxwell.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Richards came on at half time, didn't he? And made that extra player in the midfield, which I'll just digress ever so slightly. Because when I think about it, that's where we're lacking a lot of sort of flexibility in a way, isn't it? Because you can't have, I don't think either Hamilton, Yates, Medine or Kaikai are ever going to be that third midfielder. And that in itself causes other problems, but that's an aside. But this particular goal, it was a good goal. It was a good ball through, and it was a great little finish, wasn't it? And again, Maxwell had no chance really. It was, I don't know, it was just deflating, wasn't it? At what minute was it when they scored it? 50?
Yeah, 50
something.
Minute.
50, yeah, so literally 7 or 8 minutes after the second half started, and you're back to square one. And I said earlier that at 2-1 down, we looked like we were going to concede. To happen that quickly was it was like schoolboyish, wasn't it? We were left in the dressing room at half time, weren't we? Despite their good play for the second goal, really.
John, your thoughts on their equaliser? Just a quality goal, or could a Blackpool have done better in your opinion?
Yeah, I think we were asleep. The defence weren't picking up. There was 2. He's got in between the 2 centre halves. Why one of them's not picked him up, I don't know. And yeah, it was just an air of inevitability. It was just coming. But as Matt said, it was a tidy finish, good ball in. again, you've got to ask yourself if Ballard's on the pitch. 9 times out of 10, I think that's been defended.
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't on his side of the pitch, though, was it? So I think it was sort of in between Husband and Gretterson. But yeah, we're sort of splitting hairs again, aren't we? I thought it was just a good goal, and we just, we couldn't really do much about it. But I think what was ultimately the cause of it was the reason why we conceded the first goal. We were just asleep for the first 10 minutes of the second half.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's been brought back to 2-2, Tim. You've got to question the manager, haven't you? I know we've talked a bit about the subs and when they were made, but even then, we were crying out in the front room here saying you've got to either put an extra body in midfield, freshen it up a little bit up top because Medine looked shattered. Dougal didn't look his usual self because you were comparing the game to Peterborough. I didn't get to watch that, but then that's when he should have made the change, shouldn't it? Just to shore up a little bit of confidence, fresh legs on the pitch and go again because the game was still there to be won at 2-2.
Yeah, and I said I just compared, as I touched upon before at the beginning of the pod. If you compare it with Peterborough away, where I think we made too many subs too quickly, here we sort of stubbornly, to use John's expression, stuck with that team when we actually had a really strong bench. I thought. I thought we had quite a few different options there. Be it, do you bring Ballard on? We've done it in other games where we've swapped the defenders over. Do you? I would have brought Ward on, and I'd have probably lost Kai, and tried to negate the control that they seem to have developed over the centre midfield. There's lots of things you could have done. Medine was not looking that mobile during that period, so you could have taken him off. All sorts of options, and instead we've left it until the game's been lost, and then we've done. Listen, I'm not on a Critchley bashing here, but we've done, with 3 subs on at one game, 4 subs on at the other. It's almost like Holloway is worst when Holloway's sort of almost like, oh, just put them on, just get, you get on and see if you can change it, rather than it actually being structured and it being thought through as to how are you going to bring subs on that are going to improve what you've got. Throwing 4 on is a desperate measure, isn't it? And I can't think in any time when I was involved. I know you can't really compare junior football with anything, but you never put 4 subs on at once because it takes them 5 or 10 minutes to settle down together. So, and it should have happened 60 odd minutes, not 80 odd minutes. So frustrating. You can probably hear the frustration in my voice. It's just, I think we had a great bench and we didn't use it right.
Just comment here from Cliff. He said, we are a young and inexperienced team on and off the pitch. We'll only get better, and personally I buy into Sadler's long-term plan. It's next season that I'm really looking forward to. John, just a reaction to Cliff's comments there, or comments?
It's a bit defeatist.
I can understand what he's saying. I think we'll get better. We've got better in the last few games.
I don't know how to react. It's a bit defeatist, to be honest, Cliff. I think you think the season's over already, and it's not. I don't
know if he's thinking that. I think he's maybe just thinking that the type of thing we've seen in this second half hopefully won't be repeated, and that we will learn from it as a management team and as the players as well will learn from it, and that if we're the next season, if that same core team is together, we might not see that happening again. Maybe I don't think it's necessarily right in the season. I think it's just a case of we will hopefully learn from what we've seen and not repeat those mistakes and be chucking lucky dip subs on and hoping something's going to happen rather than actually, like Tim said, having some structure to it. I think.
Sorry, I was laughing at Amax comment there. Critch out, Tim in. I think his managerial days have way gone.
Get him in.
Sam knows how bad I was.
He did make a few changes late in games and never worked, but yeah, just I look back at some of the stats and in the game. We've had obviously 2 goals for us, 15 shots, only 3 on target, 6 were blocked. So whether that means it could have been 9 on target, I'm not too sure from the iFollow stats. But again, you look at that compared to Doncaster's 3 goals, 7 shots, 4 on target, none blocked. again, those stats kind of speak for themselves, Nick, don't they? In terms of, I don't know, just again, when you got the chances, you got to take them.
Yeah, it's something we've talked about a lot. Earlier in the season we weren't creating them, and then we started to and didn't finish teams off. And whilst it's brilliant to be 2-0 up at half time, we could have maybe been more. And then when you have a performance like that in the second half, you just end up ruining those other missed chances. And like I say, hopefully it's something we can learn from. I'm not going to, like I say, it's really frustrating at the moment, but I think we shouldn't maybe, get too down about it. We can see the potential in the team. We just need to learn from this sort of thing and it not to happen again. And, I think we've got potential to go on a decent run again. We've just shown what we've done in the last few games. And obviously it's the Cup on, is it Saturday or Sunday? I forget which. So we probably will see a few changes there and then back to league. And we're starting to see the core of the team come together now, aren't they? Maybe the first, 7 or 8 players with a bit of tweaks for the other 3. But we just need to learn from what we've seen in that second half, and hopefully we'll win more than we lose.
Matt, just coming to you. Obviously, I think the most frustration in this is that we've gone to Peterborough, who are top of the league, outplayed them from what I've heard and what you guys have said, and then to go to a team like Doncaster, no disrespect, not the best I've watched in the last few years, and I've never thought they were great, but is that the most frustrating thing, that you can go to one place and maybe not be expected to get the result, but you do, and you go to a team where you're expected to win maybe and don't get the result? Is that, am I right in saying that, or disagree with what I'm
I think I think that sums up why we're in the middle of the division at the moment, doesn't it? Because we're not good enough yet to win 10 in a row or whatever. There will be games like tonight, unfortunately, that'll pop up every now and again. Hopefully in a less consistent manner as they did in the early part of the season. But frustration is the word that you mentioned earlier, and that's exactly what it is. We had 15-minute madness spell, just turned off, switched off, played like a bunch of 8-year-olds, and then before we knew it, we were rabbits in the headlights, and that was the undoing of us at the end of the day. A few mistakes, and that's it. And just going back to the stats, you can look into stats. I don't think there was. I don't think either team dominated necessarily. So overall, when it was 2-2, I actually thought, well, a draw's a good result, despite the fact that we're 2-0 up at half time. But and I think most of us would have taken that. But I mean, Critchley said in the early part of the week that we go to win games, and I think the last 15 minutes when he did do the 4 changes, at least we tried to get something back in the game. And I just wonder whether Mitchell and Gabriel particularly will start to come more into his thoughts as the games progress, because they're undoubtedly more attacking type of players, and if he does want to win games, he's going to have to take a risk and see if they're the ones that are ultimately going to sort of take those bursts. But just frustrating. I mean, I'm trying to pick holes in it. I don't know why, really, but to be honest, because I just think it was a 15-minute, bizarre spell for us, and unfortunately we got done by it.
Ryan here's got coming in. Classic Blackpool. We've always maybe done well against the stronger teams over the years. We just need to stop the individual errors and complacency. And that kind of leads me to the third and final goal for Doncaster in the evening. Hands up, must admit the internet buffered, and we got a replay of the build-up, but not the penalty incident itself. Whoever watched it, I don't know if you want to describe it, but was it an individual error or a bit of a harsh penalty? Whoever watched it?
I saw it. Did anybody else see it?
I was similar to Sam. There was all sorts of buffering going on, and then ref pointed to the spot.
Nick, we're in the 1% of, and it's user error.
Yeah, user. It was that. It was user error. It was my fault. Yeah, I'd unplugged the cable.
Yeah, it was. As much as I can remember, I can't remember how the ball got there, but ultimately, it looked like it was Dougal that fouled him. Sort of slid in slightly behind him, possibly won the ball, but it's one of those that you just always knew the referee was going to give it. I'll be honest, I can't really remember much about the build-up. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure if there was different angles to it, at first glance, I just thought he touched it. I might be wrong, but obviously we don't get the benefit of replays when they need to happen on this bloody iFollow. You just get them randomly, don't you, for throw-ins or something. So, and then when the when
carries on.
Exactly, yeah. And when it was given, I don't know, the way the start of the second half had gone, I just thought, oh well, he's going to score because that's just the way it's gone for us this second half. And sent Maxwell the wrong way, and that was that.
I saw the penalty again, same corner as Yates went in the first half, but again, John, you can't be individual errors diving in when, especially from behind, if that's what people are saying. You can't give the referee the decision to make, can you? Because if you stay on your feet or let him shoot, it's 50-50, but penalty. Again, you always think strikers should score 9 out of 10, but again, I use the word frustration. It's just giving the game to them, really, and 3 points to Doncaster.
I think referees always tend to want to even out a penalty in games. And if you give them half a chance to give the opposition side a pen, they will. So it's just a bit silly giving the ref the chance to do that. But I know
I might be going a bit sort of ahead of your ticker here, Sam, but if we're going to talk penalties, even it up, that last minute handball for them.
I missed that again, to be fair. Do you
think it was?
1%.
Yeah.
It came off his chest and then his arm, didn't it, Matt?
Yeah, I thought it was arm to chest to, it seemed to just stay there on his arm. Yeah. So,
even their commentator was saying, "Oh, that's hit his hand."
Yeah, and the thing is, what about it was that it was just a long ball, so it was, in theory, it should have been easy to defend, and he basically, controlled it, nailed on, like the guys just said there. So, for me, it was one of those that if you looks in, you get it, and tonight wasn't that, unfortunately.
He's probably not going to
the way the interpretation of what is handball in this current game. And the way the game's played at the moment, the interpretation of handball is a definite penalty. Whether we go back to when we used to play in the 80s and 90s, and it might not have been, but again, I missed it. But based on I've seen Matt Scrafton's description of it, and various other people's. If it hits his hand in the penalty area, it's a penalty.
The ref's bottled it. I think he just bottled it. He doesn't want to give an important penalty in the last minute of the game.
Like you say, if it was
Sam, but that's a fact for me. Not fact, but I think that's what's happened. Oh, there you go. Ben Holland, definite pen. Ref bottled it.
Yeah, he's coming on the show next time.
Like you say, I don't know, it was Matt or John who said the Donny commentator. That was the giveaway for me. He just went, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
And he's on the half. He'll be in the other half. I know from where the obviously press day is going in there. He's in the half to the right. Yeah. Blackpool defending. So if he's seen it from distance and the referee's not seen it or bottled
straight away, he was just like, I think he was just waiting for the ref to blow the whistle. Yeah. He was just like, and that's a giveaway for me that the home commentator, who's going to be a bit biased, it was just like, that's a pen basically, and he just had a second hesitation and not giving it, and just capped probably the worst 45 minutes we've seen in a while.
Do you know what? This reminded me of Blackpool of old, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just doing things like that. That's Blackpool. Things like this always used to happen in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
It's reared its ugly head again.
But, I think as frustrating as it is, I don't know.
We can dust ourselves down and go again.
But, if you'd have said away at Peterborough and away at Doncaster, we'd have got a point at both. We'd have probably been reasonably happy with it. We've ended up with 3, so as frustrating as tonight is, it's not the end of the world, and they just need, like I say, need to have a sit down, watch that second half, and have an honest conversation with each other, and learn from it.
Are we being too?
Right, Nick.
Sorry, go on. I say, are we being harsh? Because I know we look cup games in there. 5 wins on the bounce after a quite poor start by our standards and players we brought in. Wins against Burton, Wigan, Eastbourne, Leeds, Peterborough. it's just a one-off, just a bad day at the office. It's a shame we have not got a league game on Saturday. So I think that would have been the perfect game to bounce back in. I don't know who wants to come in there.
I hope it is. If we win one, if we lose one and win the next 5, we'll be all right, won't we? Come the end of the season, But that won't happen, I'm sure. But I think that they've just got to learn quick from this sort of thing. As up to a point, they obviously did over the last few games. So they will learn from it, and hopefully, Harrogate on over the weekend, because I'm like you, Nick, I can't remember if it's Saturday or Sunday.
Saturday.
You're right. We'll hopefully they'll pay the price, and we'll get a good win in the cup.
Are we all?
I think
Steve's coming on the board.
Yeah, Steve nails it there, I think.
We'll come back to your Tim in a second. We've got to be positive, haven't we? Still, again, we've not been outplayed like we were against Ipswich and Lincoln. In some respects, I thought they were a good side, but we've come here, created chances, not got the rub of the green for the penalty incident, and maybe an offside here. So we've got to still be positive, despite the start we had, but the recent form as well. Sorry, Tim. I was going to continue. Sorry, Mike.
Blaze away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
the
wine
point I was going to make was really just an endorsement of what was said before, is that there have been a lot of positivities, and what we don't want to do here, and we're frustrated because we've played so well against Peterborough and pretty well in the first half today, and then just almost done the kamikaze second half performance, haven't we? So we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater here. We have been playing well. We've started to get a bit of good team spirit and good team play. But we've got to have we've got to have our best players on the pitch in the big games when we need them. And second thing is, we've got to react to games in a better way than we are doing, both on the pitch and off the pitch. And for me, most certainly off the pitch, we didn't react to the game the way that we should have done today, because we were all sitting there. Everybody can see what's happening. We were getting overrun in midfield. Why are we getting overrun in midfield? Because they made a half-time substitution. So you should react to that and try and deal with it, particularly when you're winning the game and you're winning the game away from home. So
I think Tim, this is a pattern that's been apparent throughout the entire season. As soon as we go down in a game, we just seem to go to pieces. So the games we've won, the last 4 or 5, we've been ahead in pretty much all of them, but we can't cope with going a goal down.
I can
understand.
We can't cope with conceding a goal because we just seem to go over the place. Yeah, we don't.
I'd be interested to see some. Yeah, I'd just be interested to see any stats about how many points we've got when we've conceded or gone down in the game. Because I bet it's not a lot.
John, but does that come from having your captain, not the goalkeeper, in some respects, someone who can get right up to the players and say, look, we need to wake up here because at the moment it's not good enough. And we're obviously, 15, 20 minutes, you've conceded 3 goals. To me, if you have someone in the middle of the park, or not Epiteta, but centre half as captain, to me, it just seems right. But it'd be interesting to see the stats, won't it?
As a stats man, Sam, I expect you to go away and do your homework and bring it to the next pod. But just come back to your point. I think you're dead right. There's no one out there geeing them up. There's no one out there grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck and saying, "Come on, lads, let's get this together. Let's get back in this game." That's what we're missing.
Man of the match. Obviously, you put this thing together. Anyone stand out for you?
It's always on. Always get a laugh if we play poorly.
I don't think we played bad. It's just the result wasn't right. But Matt, I'll come to you first. Put you in another spot. Your man of the match for Blackpool this evening. Who stood out for you?
Well, I thought I can't think of anybody in the second half, obviously, but I thought first half, I thought Yates did really well. I thought his movement was good, his work rate was really good, as it always tends to be. Put his penalty away well and set up the break for Kai. So I also thought it was quite disappointing that he was one of the players that got hooked off with a few minutes to go. I thought, if you're gonna try and get a point out of the game, you're gonna keep a striker on, aren't you? But hey ho. So prior to that, I thought Gretterson played okay. Didn't put too many feet wrong, but ahead of that, I don't know. There wasn't many standout candidates. So, yeah, I think I'll just about give it Yates over Gretterson, I think.
Nick, your thoughts on this man of the match?
I'd probably agree with Matt. I think you forget in the second half. You probably have to say Yates. He scored the penalty and brilliant work in the build up for the second. You know, he's pretty much created it, coming back to the edge of his own area to nip in and win the ball and set it going for the second. Like Matt says, I think Gretterson, you know, he did well. All right, we've conceded 3 in the second half, but not all particularly down to him. So he had a reasonable game, but yeah, other than that, I'm struggling. So I'd have to say Jerry Yates.
Tim, come to you in a very shortly, but some of the comments coming in. MB says Kai for his first half performance. I know we've spoken about his set plays earlier on in the show, so I won't go back on that. Again, AMAX said man of the match Sully for the first half. Chisballs in Chisnell for the second half. Apparently had an absolute nightmare saying the Chuckle brothers were from Doncaster, but
Really?
yeah, and called Doncaster Rotherham as well.
I thought he and Brett were the Chuckle brothers.
I wonder what his 1% human error is, but anyway. But yeah, your man of the match, Tim.
Yeah, I think I probably endorse what the other guys have said. I think one player who hasn't perhaps been mentioned is Hamilton. I think Cliff Smith has mentioned him on the messages, but obviously he set up the first, didn't he, with his cross and scored the second. But I think probably Yates overall was the more effective player in the first half. He impressed me. He was working hard. Touch maybe wasn't quite as good as it has been in recent games, but I'm going to give it him on balance, I think, ahead of Gretterson and Hamilton for me. I think Kai, I don't give it Kai because of his dead balls. I just thought that they were so poor that negated he did play quite well in play, to be fair.
John, have you got your man of the match?
Yeah, I was going to say. So it sounds like I'm copying, but I was going to say Yates. That was, it was head and shoulders for me. Just his general work rate, and he was making things happen whenever he got the ball. He was trying to make things happen, be it making runs or turning defenders. His build up to the second goal, as Nick said, it was great. We interchange of passing, got the ball, and stuck the penalty away with aplomb. So Jerry Yates, fine form continues, and I don't know why he was subbed.
No, just before we move on to the games coming up for Blackpool, we started to see the real Jerry Yates. Maybe didn't have the chances early on the season, but he just seems to be a little bit more comfortable with his strike partner next to him, Gary Medine.
Yeah, I think it's made all the difference, that tweaking formation. You know, he's got a bit closer to Gary Medine. They're working well together and just playing to his strengths, aren't they? You know, it's that kind of interchange, quick passing, a bit like we saw for the build up to the second goal. And he's the player that, you know, we thought we'd signed when you saw all the goals that he scored in League Two last season. It was a while coming, but I don't think it was particularly down to him that it wasn't happening. We just weren't playing to his strengths. It was a lot more back to goal, and you know, he wasn't, you know, like he's doing now. He's playing off Medina, is he, in that hole and running on from the flick-ons, and it's just playing to his strengths. And we're seeing it now, game in and game out. And you know, there's no reason why he can't go on and get 20 goals or more this season.
Moving on, up next for Blackpool, obviously a bit of a away from league action, FA Cup second round tie away at Harrogate. Tim, is it good that we've got a bit of a league distraction after tonight's defeat, or would you prefer to have gone into, say, a league fixture against Portsmouth and gone again?
I don't think it will do us any harm just to take stock of where we're at, because we have got another tough run of games coming up as we move into December, and I think what it does do is allow us to maybe, without doing the chucking the baby out of the bathwater, as I said before, allow us to look at some other players and just take stock of who are the best players in certain positions. I think Ballard is then nailed on to start on Saturday. And I think we'll also see some changes in the fullback positions. We may see Anderson play as well, I think. So it's I think it's a good time to have this game, and hopefully we've got enough in our locker to get ourselves in the third round draw, because we've spoken about in earlier pods, we're due a good cup run. And I think realistically, I'm not saying we can't get in the playoffs this season, but realistically, it's not looking it's going to be that easy for us. And, if nothing else, let's get a cup run, particularly hopefully when you can get an opportunity of getting back into the stadium as well. So that's what I'm hoping to see on Saturday. I'm looking for us to build on what we've been doing. As Matt said before, you run through the games we've won, and it's a fairly, albeit not against the greatest opposition other than Peterborough. It's a good run of results, and let's not just get too carried away over a one half of one game, which effectively is what we're talking about. So I'm looking forward to it.
Completely agree in terms of the one game just not turning up at the office. But Nick, we look at the next few games coming up. Eddie says he prefer a league game this weekend, needs to get back in the rhythm. The next 6 league games are crucial to our season. And I'll read out results before coming to you, Nick. Obviously, Harrogate, Portsmouth, Fleetwood, they're flying at the moment with their recent home record. Again, Fleetwood in the Papa John's, then Oxford at home, Hull at home, Accrington away, Sunderland away. The tough fixtures. We knew this November, December was going to be tough for Blackpool, but it's a matter of now of just getting back to winning ways and put tonight's game behind us all, isn't it?
Yeah, we need to. You know, when you read those out, there's some really tough games coming up. I think Saturday for me, they're a league team, and they're at home, so we can't be going there being complacent, thinking we can make 10 changes. And I don't think he will. He went strong against Eastbourne, didn't he? And I think he will on Saturday against Harrogate. Like Tim says, you maybe look at the fullback positions. Perhaps Anderson would come in. I think they said Garbutt's not far off as well, so maybe he might feature in some way, shape, or form at some point of the game. Possibly Labala, we'll see. Maybe Woodburn and Kemp will come in. So I still think
Virtue might be not far off, Nick.
Yeah. So we still need to have a strong side, and you want to be in that third round draw. Like Tim said, it'd be great to have a cup run. Be even better we could be there to see it happen, but we'll see what tier we're in for that one.
Excellent. Harrogate's on I follow. Didn't think that'd be on.
It is, yes, which is good.
Jolly good
games, aren't they? Yeah. And
then beyond that, Fleetwood doing really well. Hull are up there. Portsmouth as well. Sunderland. It's as tough a run of fixtures as we're going to have this season, in it, and we'll certainly have a lot clearer idea of whether we're going to be maybe pushed into that top 6 or hovering around the mid-table or just below. We shall see, but we should be confident and, like I say, not get too hung up about what's just happened in the second half tonight. Focus on the positives. We know we've seen, like against Peter, we can go to top of the league, and if you attack teams, we've got the armoury, haven't we, to be able to score. We know we can score goals. We just need to be a bit smarter and not repeat what we saw in the second half tonight, rather.
Matt, coming to you, Jeff, our friends from the States, says, oh, that's the wrong comment, actually. It mixed up. He says, start the same 11 on Saturday, give them a chance to redeem themselves. Agree or disagree? I know we spoke about bringing players or giving players game time, but not a bad shout, really, that tonight was a one-off, and obviously you want to keep that winning streak going in terms of the winning mentality, should I say. Yeah,
it's a fine line, though, isn't it, between getting them to redeem themselves and running them into the ground, because I think this, pretty much this same starting 11, sort of 13 players or whatever have played the majority of games over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I think he will use the cup to rotate the squad a bit and keep his options open, because he needs to see the likes of the 4 or 5 that Nick mentioned to see whether they can put pressure on those that have been involved in the last few games. So I think that's what will happen. I think he will make 5 or 6 changes. He'll try and keep the a general sort of core in there. But yeah, I think that's what will happen. I think the only concern for me is that we won't really be able to do much in terms of the front two. Maybe Anderson and Yates will probably play together. But yeah, we don't have many options right up top, I don't think. But we'll see what happens, and I'm pretty confident that we'll get what we need against Harrogate.
We are going to wrap this up very shortly, but Ben's obviously been listening to Radio Lancashire, and it looks like Critchley's had his say, so I'll bring the comment up on the screen. Critchley said it after the 3-2 defeat. I'm scratching my head thinking how we have conceded 3 goals and lost that game. He bemoans that their first goal was offside and how it wasn't given. Again, John, I'll come to you first on this one. Like us, he's scratching his head as well, but not happy with that first goal and the offside shout.
Well, we can't really tell, can we, from our camera angle?
Yeah.
So, can't really comment on that. I'm scratching my head how we have conceded 3 goals and lost that. Well, I'll tell you, Neil, because you've not made any changes. That's how we've lost that game. And you've not put a rocket out the... Well, no. And you've not organised them in the second half. That's how we've lost. I think it's like dual responsibility. Half the players and half the manager. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Tim, your thoughts to what Critchley said before we head off for the evening?
I saw what went wrong, and it was that we got out muscled in midfield when they made the half-time substitution, and that should have been apparent by the 60th minute at the latest, and we should have dealt with it, and we didn't. And so that's the biggest disappointment tonight for me, really. Equally, I think certain players probably were off the boil, including the ones that I was beating the drum for on Saturday, to be fair.
I think Dougal's just run out of steam, Tim, hasn't he? Because he's putting a hell of a shift against Peterborough and asking him to do it again, given he's not played much this season. You've got to look at your manager to recognise that and act accordingly, haven't you? It's not Dougal's fault,
perhaps,
really.
I mean, whether it's apparent that he's running on fresh air, you might not know that, but you could see it in the second half, couldn't you? And he's probably thinking, leave him on because he is our best player in central midfield. But you give him some. If you're going to do it, give him some extra support so he's not chasing shadows. Because that's what was happening, wasn't it? They were both he and Robson were chasing shadows, and it made them both look a lot worse players than they actually are. Robson, we haven't really spoken about him tonight, but he had a pretty poor game in that second half. And but I don't think it's necessarily all down to him. I think it's down to the fact that they were outgunned, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are all our thoughts after Blackpool's 3-2 defeat away at Doncaster this evening. Plenty of positives, we have to say, going into this weekend's game. And the tough fixtures that are coming up in the next few weeks and months. But just to finish off with Ben's comment, we'll pick ourselves up and go again on Saturday. Thanks all, and a good chat tonight. All the best from Poland. All the best to you, Ben, as well. And also a huge thanks to all the people who have joined in the chat this evening, leaving your comments. It's been great to have your views on the game. And as Steve says, yes, there will be a pre-match pod ahead of this game against Harrogate, so stay tuned for Friday. I don't know if John's going to be leading that one, so you have to find out.
Definitely maybe.
Definitely maybe. Good album. But that's going to be enough. That was going to be it from us this evening. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the Seasiders podcast YouTube channel. A little links of the 39 that are in the chat now. Make sure you hit it. It's all the support's great. And it helps us grow as a channel and as a podcast as well. So yeah, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. So again, join us on Friday for the pre-match, the Friday night preview show ahead of the game against Harrogate. But from all of us, it's good night and up the pool.
Up the pool.
Up the pool.